A court case in Kentucky is going to have to address just where to draw that line when it comes to a sect of the Amish and a state law that requires them to put an orange triangle on the back of their horse-drawn buggies. Joining us now in the News Hub is Steve Eder. Steve, you've been following this case. Bring us up to date where the case now sits and what's the battle here?
Sure. So I was actually in Frankfurt just yesterday in
Frankfurt, Kentucky.
Frankfurt, Kentucky.
Not Germany.
Just yesterday, and it was fascinating because you're sitting there. So they have a group of about 15 Amish men of a very ultra-Orthodox sect who all make this long trip, taking buses across the state to get to this hearing. And this hearing was just all about religious freedoms versus safety, and whether there's a better alternative than forcing these folks to use the triangle. And the triangle to them has two problems.
I was going to say, why is the triangle such an issue?
Yeah, it's two issues. One is that they see it as being too bright and gaudy and a violation of their religious code.
It's bright orange, right?
It's
just
bright
a bright orange safety triangle.
Exactly,
yeah,
big bright orange.
How does it compare to Jeanette's sweater there?
Along those lines.
Not as beautiful.
I did. Of course, nothing could be.
But the other part is that the shape of it's actually a triangle, which represents the Trinity, they say, and while they believe in the Trinity, they don't believe in carrying religious symbols around for protection. So the problems are twofold. This is an issue that isn't a new issue with this sect of Amish. It's gone back quite a bit of time, and so now this has just really come to a head in Kentucky, where on one side you had yesterday, interestingly, you had the Kentucky Supreme Court hearing arguments on this case, where guys have actually been jailed, and then you also have the legislature in Kentucky that's sorting out legislation to try to give them an alternative.
Well, and that's the thing is it sounded like from your story, the Amish men don't have an issue with kind of the intent of the law, which is you have black buggies at night on black asphalt, and you want people to know that there's a buggy there, so you put up some kind of safety measure. They don't seem to have a problem with that. It's literally just the specific orange triangle that they have an issue with, right? There were suggestions for example, I think tape on the back of the
and I
buggies.
think lanterns as well.
Yeah, lanterns,
a combination of, they have no issue. I mean, they say the safety is just important. I mean, they're in these buggies with their families, so they want there to be some type of symbol there. But they also it's that triangular, the color itself has caused a lot of problems and has led to people being put in jail.
And how much of a safety issue is it? I mean, when you were down there, did you get a sense that there had been a lot of accidents, that this was something that had come to the forefront because it was a real safety issue in Frankfurt, Kentucky?
Well, it depends who you talk to. I mean, in terms of how much of a safety issue it is, it's definitely a sort of the backdrop of the whole thing. They weren't rolling out statistics left and right about how many crashes there have been. And actually, one of the opponents here, you see a lot of support for changing the law in Kentucky when you're there, but one of the lone guys who was coming out against changing it said that how can we really, I understand their concerns, but how can we go so far as to change state law without really doing a deep study of the reflective tape versus the triangle? And he has concerns that while you may be able to see the reflective tape better at night, what about during the day? And that's when the Amish do a lot of their work.
Right, and then any of that could set any kind of precedent for different religious groups saying, well, we don't like, it wouldn't be maybe a safety thing like this, but some other kind of object that they don't like what that represents. So it could open the door for a lot more complaints.
And it's also coming against the backdrop of the dispute over contraception,
right,
the law, and just a much more highly charged atmosphere over questions of religion.
Sure, it's absolutely been the case lately. I was talking to people who've been studying the issues, who are involved in this case and who have been involved in other cases. And bigger picture, this has definitely been a time where different groups are saying, like, look, there's opportunities here to push the envelope a bit and try to see if there are exceptions that can be granted in different kinds of ways, and so we're seeing some of that play